All right, this is Seth Macomber from the Blazing Musket. So happy to be joined by another Apple personality. This week is Callum Williams. Callum, you were spending a lot of time in Foxborough recently. You're becoming a resident. What's it like to make that trip so often?
It's been really good. You are quite right. I think Cale and Carl and I were talking about this last night after the game. I think it's my seventh game in Foxborough, so becoming very accustomed to everything. And it's great. The football club have been wonderful to us. Brian Biello, Bruce Arena, everyone have been extraordinarily welcoming. They let us come to training. They let us hang out in the members club lounge thing afterwards. They have been really accommodating. It's also really good for me as well, Seth, because I live in New York City, so it's a 45-minute flight. And you know, it's just been really, really good. It has been an exceptional experience so far. I really, really enjoy Foxborough. I love the city of Boston. I love the state of Massachusetts. So it's been great so far. It's been really, really good.
So you've been on these League Cup calls with Kalen Carr. You saw the draw against New York Red Bulls. You saw the win last night, 5-1 against San Luis. What was the difference between those two games?
Do you know what? It's interesting. I don't think there was too much difference in terms of the approach that Bruce Arena set up, because it was the same 4-4-2 with the Diamonds. Gustavo Bo and obviously Bobby Wood started in New York, but Giacomo Brioni started very well last night against Atletico San Luis. But I don't think there was a major change, really. I think the major change was the opponent, because Red Bull New York, as we all know, play a very, very high press and cause you problems. They limit the space you have, and I thought they limited Carlos Gil very well last weekend. Atletico San Luis, not so much. Carlos Gil had a lot of space and a lot of time, in particular between the lines, and that's the last space you want to give Carlos Gil, any sort of time and space. So I also thought Marc-Anthony Kaye did a tremendous job as well of winning the ball back and recycling the play and making sure the ball went into the right people at the right time. I think Marc-Anthony Kaye is a very, very good addition. I think the eyebrows were raised around Major League Soccer when people saw that Latif Blessing was let go almost too easily for some people. But Marc-Anthony Kaye, I think, he's a very, very important piece to this New England puzzle now. And it's not like the Revs are short of people to play in the centre of midfield, but I think he can become a key component for New England over the course of the next couple of years, assuming he's at the club for that long. But look, I thought more than anything, I think Atletico San Luis went into it with an open mindset. I think they had an attacking mindset. Their coach, Gustavo Leal, was kind enough to spend some time with us over the last few days. And he used the word, he said they want to be protagonists. They want to have the ball. They want to maneuver the ball forward. They want to attack. They don't just want to be here to make up the numbers. And whilst that's all good and well, there has to be an element of discipline as well, particularly when you're on the road. And I think when you're on the road to someone like New England Revolution, it's okay to be direct. It's okay to tighten things up. And I would assume that Gustavo Leal, as encyclopedic as he is with regards to football, I think he probably learnt a thing or two on Wednesday evening.
Yeah, you mentioned it there. One of the big questions for the New England Revolution for the last year or so has been Giacomo Brioni, right? Like, he's in and out of the lineup. One of my favorite stats to look at is how often all three designated players are on the field. And the stat I'm about to give you doesn't bring in Open Cup. It doesn't mention Leagues Cup. But when we're talking about just leagues play, those three designated players have only played 326 minutes together. So we saw last night, they all started together. It's a Leagues Cup competition. You mentioned maybe the competition isn't as strong, or maybe their tactical setup wasn't as good as maybe another MLS team. But the question is, has Giacomo Brioni arrived? Should he be starting here on out?
I think Giacomo Brioni against Atletico San Luis proved what I think a lot of people already knew. He is a box striker. He is somebody who operates very, very well inside the 18-yard box. At times, I think the Revs are obviously pushed a little higher up the field because opposing teams don't want Carlos Gil close to goal, so they will play high lines. At times, that has proven to be a little bit difficult to deal with, because whilst Bobby Woods and Giacomo Brioni have plenty of pace, they're good playing off the shoulder, they can get in behind. It's not often been the case this season. So what I saw with Atletico San Luis last night was they were a little deeper than I expected them to be, given their attacking-minded approach as well. But Giacomo Vrioni, I think, absolutely made the most of the service that was given to him last night. The second goal with Carlos Gil doing the little dummy and step over for Vrioni, who was completely unmarked and should be putting those sort of chances away, particularly if you're a designated player. It was so good. It was so smooth. It was very, very vintage how I know Bruce wants to play. And I thought it was a really good example of what Giacomo Vrioni can be. But once again, I think I would plead patience with somebody like Vrioni because he is one of these centre forwards that if there is no service, you can tell that he disappears a little bit. And so I think the term box striker best describes him. And that's all good and well. He'll obviously score goals when the ball comes to him inside the penalty area. His movement off the ball inside the box is very, very good. But I think nowadays, Seth, particularly in a very demanding Major League Soccer in particular, you probably ask a little bit more of the centre forward nowadays because off the ball, I don't see Giacomo Brioni pressing too much. I don't see him holding the ball up. He's not that kind of centre forward. So I think the question more so than not with Giacomo Brioni is what does he offer off the ball more so than what he does with it? Because I think, again, he proved against Atletico San Luis that if he's given the service, he scores goals.
I like that question because Bobby Wood really hasn't done much to lose his spot. He's someone that presses quite a bit, created a couple goals this season because of that press. He works hard to receive the ball, combines really well with Carlos Gil. So he really hasn't, he's obviously scoring goals as well. He hasn't really done anything to lose that spot. At the same time, I do think we're seeing Vrioni find form a little bit better. Last night, coming back and receiving the ball a little bit more. And I think really importantly, making hard runs into the box where he was someone who always loved that ball in behind. He's now crashing the box and finding those goals. The question came up last night, what was the favorite goal? And it was asked to Vrioni. Bruce Arena mentioned his favorite of the 3 goals. I'm curious from your perspective, if you're looking at Vrioni, and I know we have to preach patience for sore, but if you're looking at those 3 goals, which was the one that you're like, wow, there's something really here with this player?
I think the best team goal, in my opinion, was, as I mentioned earlier on, that second goal when Carlos Gil executed the dummy and Brioni was able to finish no problem. I think because the first goal as well was quite team orientated and a very good finish from Brioni for sure. But I thought that the third goal was very reminiscent of a poacher's type goal. And that's the kind of centre forward that he is. If you go back and have a look at his goals at VSG Tirol in Austria, again, he has absolutely thrived as a box striker. So for me, that third goal I thought was very reminiscent of what I expected from Giacomo Brioni, being that poacher, arriving at the near post and at times at the back post, but he does make these wonderful near post runs, which luck has eluded him, I think, on a couple of occasions this year. But I think if we continue to see service provided like it was against Atletico San Luis on Wednesday throughout the majority of the season, Giacomo Brioni now, it's 7 goals in all, 8 goals, I beg your pardon, in all competitions to my knowledge. And I would absolutely back him to get not just double figures. I would back him to get 14, 15 goals this year if he continues to play the way he has done. If he has a little more luck on his side, if the service continues to be consistent, and I know for a while a lot of New England Revolution fans were irritated and feel as though he wasn't perhaps delivering and wasn't deserving of the designated player tag and what have you. But I think, again, we need to preach patience with Brioni. And the counter argument here, Seth, will be, well, how much longer do we have to give him? But honestly, I think if you give him a little more time and he has a little more fortune in front of goal and gets the service that he needs, I think the Revs have got a genuine goal scorer on their hands here. But like I said, the goal scoring and opportunities in front of goal is not the issue for Giacomo Brioni. The issue is, for me, is what does he offer off the ball? Because I think now with football in this region, I think as a centre forward, particularly when you're playing as a lone centre forward, which Brioni has done from time to time this year, and given how Gustavo Bo likes to drift into the wide areas, he will still operate as a lone centre forward. I think you have to offer a little bit more in Major League Soccer off the ball. So that would be where my primary concern with him would be, not goal scoring.
Yeah, I like everything you said there. I agree with you. The third goal, Bruce Arena agreed with you. The third goal. I think when you see the third goal, what was exciting about that is that against the Red Bulls, we actually saw the strikers have similar opportunities. Bo messed one up, and Wood misfired on those. And you know that that service comes in from wide areas. So if you can have a striker that can make those runs and finish those opportunities, then you're going to find the back of the net more often. And that'd be an opportunity for Veroni to make those minutes, especially like you mentioned, that we're seeing Bo drift wide more and more. And there's a couple opportunities last night. I was actually really impressed him taking on a defender 1v1 because we know that Bo doesn't have the best pace. It's more about his ability to run the line. Well, if he can go out there and beat a guy and then send in a service to a striker, maybe that's where that chemistry with Veroni steps in. You mentioned Mark Anthony Kaye earlier. We also have Ian Harkes being a mid-season acquisition. We have Chancalay that's coming in. We haven't really seen anything about him. Maybe you're checking out the YouTube highlights with the club music in the background. But you have those three additions that are coming in. What do you think of these, and how do they fit into the Revolution?
Well, first and foremost, I spoke to Bruce Arena the other day, and he, when I asked him about even more additions, he was not particularly convinced. He thinks as though the business is done for this particular window. But he did also say at the end, you never know. And that's very true in this league, isn't it? You know, sometimes a trade comes out of nowhere and you take it. So, as I said, Mark Anthony Kaye for me is one of the most underrated box-to-box midfielders in Major League Soccer. He's so far for the Revs, he's sat a little deeper, as he had done with Toronto FC, and we saw it towards the latter stages of his time with Colorado Rapids as well. But deep line midfielder, is wonderful in transition, great on the half turn. His job is obvious: get the ball into Carlos Gil, get the ball into Gustavo Bo, into the creative players. But he's been wonderful in terms of getting them out of situations as well. His passing range is very good, and I think it's a tremendous signing. Elsewhere, look, I mean, Ian Harkes has been a breath of fresh air, I think, and certainly added something to New England. Box-to-box midfielder again. I'll be totally honest, when Ian Harkes arrived, I wasn't entirely sure he was going to be a regular first-team starter, because I think we can all say this with confidence now. The level of quality in the Scottish Premier League as opposed to Major League Soccer is not as good. It's not a league that has a level that is sought after for the most part. And I say that with all due respect to him and Dundee United, but he's come in and he's done really well. The goals that he scored against DC United were sublime. I think he's a player that's riding high on confidence at the moment, and I think he's somebody to watch over the course of the next couple of weeks and see how he continues to settle in. I know his father, John Harkes, and Bruce Arena obviously know each other very, very well. What was interesting as well, when I spoke to Bruce about bringing in Ian Harkes, he may have said this to you, I don't know, but he actually said he held Ian Harkes as a baby, which I thought was really interesting. That there's a special relationship with them there between Bruce Arena and that Harkes family. So, and I know John Harkes was very, very encouraging with regards to moving back to Major League Soccer for Ian Harkes. So, good signing. Interested to see what he brings over the course of what is a long season in Major League Soccer. And look, Thomas Chancalay, have seen him play at Racing in the Copa Libertadores. Very direct, can play in the 10, can play in the wide areas, has a good turn of pace. Is somebody who, rather than being a modern day wide player and going down the line, he likes to cut inside. And not too dissimilar from Gustavo Bo, to be totally honest. And when Gustavo Bo played in the wide areas, there are similarities, and I can see why Bruce Arena was attracted to him for sure, because he's 24 years of age as well. It's a loan deal, to my knowledge, with an option to buy. So it's almost like an audition period, really, as most of those deals are. So Chancalay, I believe, is getting his visa sorted, and I believe he's going to be in the country over the course of the next few days, but I have no idea if he's going to be available anytime soon, really. I don't know what his fitness level is. He's been playing in the UAE over the course of the last 9 months, I believe. But he hasn't played for about 2 months. So I think that's one that we have to wait and see. But look, either way, Seth, he's a good player, and he's going to be a good addition to the roster.
All right, so I appreciate all the time you're giving us. I got 2 more quick questions for you. We know that Bruce Arena is going for MLS Cup. That's something that he wants on his mantle. He wins the Supporters Shield, doesn't really make a big deal out of it. He wants that MLS Cup. So I'm going to ask you for one reason why the Revs can win MLS Cup this year and one reason why they won't win MLS Cup this year or can't win MLS Cup this year. So give me your one reason why they could win MLS Cup this year.
The one reason they could win MLS Cup this year, it's sort of a double answer here for you, Seth, so apologies, I'm cheating a little bit here. The one reason they can is because of Carlos Hill. And every time the ball gets to his feet, I certainly maneuver to the edge of my seat. I assume something's going to happen, and it usually does. The other reason, and it's also the main reason why I think there's a real possibility of the Revs lifting MLS Cup this year, is Georgi Petrovic. Without a doubt, the best goalkeeper I have seen in Major League Soccer. And I know Bruce Arena would back that statement and has said to me in the past, he thinks he can be as good as the likes of Brad Friedel, Casey Keller, Tim Howard, and all of the above, and all of those wonderful goalkeepers years ago that Bruce Arena was able to nurture and work with during his time in various different places. So for me, that would be the one. That would be the one reason as to why the Revs could win MLS Cup. In terms of why they can't, that's an interesting question. Because when you look at the roster, there's not too many reasons. There's not too many negative thoughts. There's not too much to hang your head on, really. They're a very well-oiled machine, very well-organized. I guess the only reason would be, Seth, is can they play the way that they want to play when they go on the road in certain areas? Because road form has been an issue for them. But I know Bruce has said to us before that they've left a lot of points on the table on the roads. And, look, home form has been remarkable for them this year, and that's great. That's the way it's supposed to be, right? But away form, I think, has hindered them slightly a little bit from time to time. So I think maybe not enough away wins, not enough opportunities on the road created, not solid enough defensively on the road. All the basic things that you would assume would provide success on the road. I think sometimes the Revs don't fill me with confidence there at times on the road. But look, it's a tough one to answer, Seth, because when you look at the roster and you look at how they played last night against Atletico San Luis, and even when they played at Red Bulls, and yes, obviously they lost on penalties, but if that's a regular season game, they get a point. And it was an ugly game, but they did limit Red Bull New York. And I think that's the makings of a team that have got all the confidence in the world and all the ability to at least mount some sort of challenge. And I think Bruce Arena is obviously somebody who wants one more cup, doesn't he? You can tell, like, he's obviously in his early 70s now. He just wants one more. And I don't think he's going to go anywhere unless he gets that one more MLS Cup. But he said as well he wants to win Leagues Cup. His message was very clear to us over the course of the last few days and to the players as well. He said, we want to win, we have to win. Obviously, they had to win the game on Wednesday against Atletico San Luis, and they did so very, very well. So it's clear that the message from Bruce gets across. But look, this is a very, very good Revolution side. I'm hesitant to say if they're as good as that 2021 team. I guess we'll find out over the course of the next couple of months, really. But there are similarities for sure. And if you look at it from a goal scoring point of view as well, I believe it was in the low 60s in terms of goals and points and whatnot that the Reds had to that 21 campaign. They're getting very, very close to getting near that. And there's still a handful of MLS games to play as well. So, look, they're a very good team, the Reds are. And there's times when on the road, I kind of think to myself, is this really the same team that we see at Gillette Stadium? Because at Gillette Stadium, they're a joy to watch, as they were on Wednesday against Atletico San Luis. So it's a tough one to answer, Seth, because I really look at the team and I just think this is a team that's absolutely set for the playoff run at the very least. And I think given their league form and where they currently stand in the Eastern Conference, you wouldn't bet against them, would you?
No, absolutely. Still lots of soccer to be played in the Leagues Cup as well as the regular season when it goes back in August 20th, I believe. Callum, thank you so much for joining the podcast. We look forward to seeing you in Foxborough once again, and safe travels to you.
Lovely. Thank you, Seth. Appreciate it. Speak to you soon.